Hey guys, welcome back to curling class, and today I'm going to be talking about the basics of reading the ice as a skip. And I'm using the cool curling table again in my basement because we're still in COVID, but I think this is a good use of this table to explain just a little bit about the basics of reading ice as a skip. So let's get started. In this video I want to talk a little bit about reading the ice as a skip. So I'm going to cover 3 or 4 of the basics, and I'll put the information in the description below, so maybe if I don't articulate it well in the video, you can at least read below what I've covered here. Maybe I missed something or forgot something in the video. I'll cover it in the description below. So here's what I like to do as a skip when I'm reading the ice. If I don't have the hammer, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stand behind the opponent's skip, and I'm going to watch the first person throwing the stone and watch their line of delivery and see how much is curling. So for example, if the skip is placing his broom at the edge of the 12 here on the inside, and the person delivering the stone hits the broom and is throwing a center guard and they land on the center line, well, I know it's 4 feet of curl there. But let me take a step back, okay? Because when reading ice, we need to know that at the beginning of the match, it's the ice and the pebble is fresh, and so the stones are going to run straighter because it's going to be slower. You're going to need more weight. The stones will run straighter and they will not curl as much because they don't carry as far. So we need to take that into consideration. That's why usually during a match, the broom will start to go out a little bit further and further as the pebble breaks down and the ice speeds up, because you're going to get more curl. You don't have to throw it as hard, it curls more, travels further, so the broom will go out further. Now, I just touched on another thing, the T-line. I always try whenever possible to place my broom head on the T-lines. So I use the T-line as a ruler. That way I know if I need an extra foot on the next throw, I can just move it over a foot, for example. So, sometimes you might have stones out in the front where you have to move your broom out here and put it next to the stone that's in the front, of course. Otherwise they won't see your broom way back here. But you can start behind the T-line, and if you know the curl, then you walk from the T-line straight up and try to follow that imaginary line. That way you know where to place the broom, especially if you're trying to get through a port or something. But, if you're just trying to take it out or peel, of course you just place the broom down next to the stone. But I always try to use the T-line as my ruler and point of reference, because if I've seen skips do it, they place the broom everywhere around the house. How do you know, where you were at before, the last shot that you threw? So, how much ice you had given. So, maybe you might get lucky, but use this T-line. It's there for a good purpose, and a reason is a ruler and a benchmark to track where you're placing the broom and how much ice you're giving. So again, as the skip, the first thing that I'm doing, if the opponents have the hammer and maybe they're going to throw a center guard, whatever it is, I stand behind the skip and I watch the line of delivery of the opponents throwing the stones. I do that for every shot, just to watch their line of delivery, seeing the path of where the stone is coming, and then I place that onto the T-line, and then I see how much the stone curls, and then I know how much is curling on that path. And you don't even have to look at where their skip places the broom. Just look at where, you can use that as another piece of information, but what's most important is where the stone is coming out, its line of delivery. So if the skip places the broom here, but the line of delivery for the stone, is in the 12 foot, then, where they place the broom doesn't matter, right? So always be looking at where the stone's going. And every shot that the opponents throw, and that your team throws, you're watching the stones on both sides and seeing how much it's curling. So a mistake that I see a lot of skips make, and I made it so many times, and I always kick myself when I made this mistake, is that as the ice is speeding up and you're getting good curl and you're making all of your usual shots, you might forget that you haven't been throwing to the edges. So you might have a scenario where it's all junked up. Let's just say it's all junked up in the front, and you need to get this blue stone around this junk over here and try to bite the 4 foot or whatever. So we're 2 feet off here. Let's say you're normally placing the broom at the edge of the 8 to get to the T-line, but I need to be here, to get to the pin, but I need to be here on the edge of the 4. So I need 2 more feet, right? Well, that's completely wrong. Now we're getting out to the edge where not as many stones have been thrown. So you have fresh pebble out here. Maybe you have a ridge, something, but we're not worried about ridges right now. But ultimately it's fresher pebble, so it's going to run straighter, right? And it's going to be slower. So we need to add more ice. Well, I don't want to start walking onto another person's sheet and into their house. So I'm going to place my broom. I'll go across the tee line and then place it up, and then just go up the sideline or sideboard here, whatever you have, and place the broom here, you know, based on what I think I need. So maybe I'll add it over here and then just walk it up to this point. So I have the tee line and the sideboards to add more and more ice. So keep that in mind when you're going to the edge. Is, you know, is that path been used before? You know, is it as fast as the other paths? No, it's not, of course. So you need more and more ice. You need a lot more ice than what you think sometimes, especially you might get 6 more inches of this one. You probably need like 2 more feet of ice, right? It gets kind of absurd when you get out there, and makes it really difficult to get around the edge and actually place a stone in the house, because you're dealing with extra weight, extra line. It becomes very difficult, but I've made the mistake many times of just making the mistake of not giving enough ice and crashing on these guards out here so many times. So just keep that in mind. You know, always be aware of that, of paths that haven't been played that you're going to need more ice or more weight. But especially those on the outside edges, and when you get towards the end of the match and it starts getting junked up because of other variations in the ice and pebble breakdown and things like that, you'll start seeing lots of more stones start coming down and stopping in the center line area and to the edges and things like that, because the pebble's breaking down, it's slowing down quite a bit, and so then you need to take more ice to the edge. Okay, so I just wanted to cover the basics here, and so hopefully I did that. If I've forgotten something, I'll put it in the description below, so please read the description. I'll try to cover all the basics of reading the ice in case I've forgotten something in this video. But ultimately, what I wanted new skips to know is to use the tee line as a point of reference, so that you can make the adjustments, you know, accurately, how much you're adding or subtracting from the ice that you're giving on each side. Know that the first end or two, it's slower, so it's going to run straighter, not curl as much, right? And as you progress, it's going to curl more and more, so your broom will more than likely be going out further and further the longer you play, until you start getting towards the end of the match when the pebble's breaking down and everything, and then your broom might start coming in again, and needing a little bit more weight as well. So if you can understand those basic concepts, as well as watching your opponent's stone and where the stone is coming on its line of delivery across this tee line, rather than where the opponent's placing the broom, that doesn't matter so much. It just matters where is the stone, you know, on the line of delivery. Pay attention to that instead of where the skip is placing the broom. And if you pay attention to that, and you're watching every stone that your opponents are throwing, and you understand those other little basic concepts that I mentioned, you're going to be much better, or at least a better foundation for starting to read ice and starting to read all those more specific ice anomalies that occur, like ridges and gullies and things like that. You'll be aware of those more once you understand the basics more of how to read the ice in its most basic form. If it's pretending that everything is perfect, right? It should behave this way. Then if you know how to do that, then you can start to see those gullies and ridges and things. So I hope this helps you. Again, I probably forgot something. I'll add it into the description below. And good curling, and hopefully we can curl next season. If your club's closed, hopefully we'll be there next season. But until then, I'll be using the Cool Curling shuffleboard table to make maybe a couple more videos this season, and hopefully be back on the ice next season. So good curling.